How you doing, man?
Good. We're here. It's Saturday.
Saturday
Um,
edition.
Kicking it.
How you doing, man? What's new out in California?
Hey, the fires are under control, which is really nice. They have been
Well,
for a
good.
while now. We've got some good rain. You got to go right into the weather. I feel like that's just the traditional Midwest. Like that's the first thing you talk about. There's some conversations I'll have with people that are truly just like weather report. Uh, you're okay. Yep. All right. Later. And then that's just it. Like skipping out after that. So
So, Cat, we might as well start right off. Spike and Cat show. Of course, this week we've got our show sponsors, Cranial Colon Dislodge, and for people that aren't familiar, Cat, can you talk a little bit about cranial colon dysplasia, some of the symptoms and stuff?
Oh, sure. Yeah, some of the cranial colon dysplasia is actually pretty spread pretty widely across the globe. And we're trying to at least get, some bit of a market out there that sees and understands that you can actually do something about it. And that is where cranial colon dislodge comes in. And I'm gonna kick it back into your court here, but I'm gonna just say that the thing that I really do believe stands out and is a huge improvement upon that first run is now is as I've said in previous episodes, that cocoa butter scent is really um, it helps in two ways, and the best of it is you come out in a lot better than when you were in there.
Well,
So
and, and, and
and so things aren't only clearer as far as you get rid of the congested feeling, but it also it helps with that unpleasant scent now, and it also makes it it's I can't say enough about that cocoa butter scent, but
yes, I know. Well, and that's the thing, Kat, is that, uh, you know, for those who aren't familiar with the show, welcome to the show. You can hit us up at Spike and Cat Show on social media if you have any questions about it. But we get into some pretty serious topics, and so we have these great show sponsors that come on board, and one of them is cranial colon dislodge, and it's specifically for a disease, cranial colon dysplasia. You see it there. Some of the common symptoms are, congested feeling, unpleasant scent, confusion. There's all sorts of things. But the point is that the good people at Cranial Colon Dislodge have been nice enough to come on as a show sponsor. If you're interested in sponsoring the show, there's a million ways you can do that. But one of the great ways is go to our website, spikeandcat.com, and you'll see all sorts of information about cranial colon dislodge. And basically what it helps you do is it treats cranial colon dysplasia. And then also, Cat, for our viewers that are back, they'll remember that you brought up the idea of doing the Spike and Cat decoder ring and cranial colon dislodge combo pack, and I think that that's probably there's like a level of generosity there that I think people will also appreciate with the Spike and Cat show, because we're really trying to solve problems here and stuff, But Cat, I thought it would be important this week to kind of just start out with uh, we get a lot of responses there at Spike and Cat Show, or uh, what's our email address? I don't remember. Spike and Cat. Well, at any rate, people can hit us up on social media,
Bike and
right?
Cat Show at Gmail.
That's right. That's right. And
That's where
so
we are.
so um, we get all sorts of perplexing questions, and so I thought it might be important just to start right off with a viewer mailbag, if that's okay, Kat. Because last week, we get a little controversial in here. We'll admit that. And last week we had our inaugural dick bag of the week was Donald Trump, and we said that, you know, in essence, he kind of he personifies exactly what we're looking for in terms of a dick bag of the week, right, Kat? So it's
Yeah.
kind of talking a little bit about that, because we also talk about be nice to people, treat others the way you want to be treated, whatever. Just be a nice person, right? Crack a
Yep.
joke, whatever. But so our viewer mailbag, it says, "Dear Spike and Cat, I was watching the show last week, and I noticed you had Donald Trump as your dick bag of the week. Uh, as he is my candidate of choice, aren't you being a bully by picking on Donald Trump?" So this viewer, it's his candidate of choice. I'm assuming it's a his, maybe it's a her. They didn't uh, signed
Oh yeah.
yours
Let's not go down that.
pissed red hat. It says
Right.
pissed red hat. So I only assume, and it's probably not like a pissed red hat, like he didn't piss in his hat, like hoping he could hold it or something. So I'm imagining he's like pissed in a red hat, right? So
Oh, that's his sign. Okay, cool, cool, cool.
Yeah,
All
you
right.
know, like the Ann Landers type, or what is
Yep.
it? Is that what it is, Cat? I always
Sure.
forget.
Yep. Dear Abby.
Dear Abby, Dear Abby. Yeah,
Landers was one as well. You're
yeah.
right. You
And
hit it.
I think people are kind of looking to us for that type of advice
This
and
is the
stuff.
place to come for that for
Oh
sure.
yeah, absolutely. So, anyways, regarding the dick bag of the week, are we being a bully when we pick on Trump, or are we picking on him? What are we doing specifically?
I actually feel like there couldn't have been a more kind of the what is it, the old squeaky wheel gets the grease or something like that. But we came right into this topic here and right from the cranial colon dislodge, and I feel like if mad or something. Oh, it's fruit fly season. They all be coming in trying to
Fruit
stay
fly
warm.
season
They all
already?
come in trying to stay warm. They're trying to stay. It's cold. It's chilly outside. California chilly. But anyway, so I'm thinking, uh, if that guy, if the person who wrote the mail, just to get this right out of the way, I think if they left any type of an address, let's definitely get them one or multiple of the cranial colon dislodge and send them their way. And I'm not saying, specifically, I'm just saying, because to help them out, you know what I'm saying, like to bring really to bring them together, and maybe they even know somebody else or not, or whoever amongst them may need a little help from some cranial colon dislodge. As far as being a bully, I don't know. I think that a lot of that, there's always that line of seriousness and then just being lost the
Well,
word.
Kat, I forgot to ask you, and I didn't mean to just jump right to it and expect, but are you pro bully or anti bully? I never remember where you stand on the bully spectrum. Anti?
I'm
I'm a
I'm anti-bully for
anti
sure.
bully in
That was
general.
where I was going. Was I think that there's a fine line between jest and then taking it to the level of being like, whoa, they're really being mean or they're being, they're picking on somebody. Um, I think it's with a lot of things in the world, like something or someone out there sets a precedent, and when that happens, you really should highlight it in the best way possible. And for this, it really, I think Dick Bag of the Week does that. I don't know, but how do you feel about it, Spike?
You know, it's funny because uh, great influencers in my life, on a serious note, have said, look, um, don't be mean, treat others the way you want to be treated, whatever. But by the same token, there's kind of an expectation, I think, that you should be able to. My sister used to always say, my sister Becky would always say, hey, listen, Spike, if you see somebody being picked on over in the distance, right? And they make eye contact with you. Say they're surrounded by a couple people being dickheads to them, and they make eye contact with you in the distance. They're going to think that you, at minimum, are okay with it, and quite possibly agree with it, right? And when she said that
Interesting.
to me, I always there was kind of like this. I had some people when I was young, as probably everybody did, that were just dickheads. You know what I'm saying? And so,
Oh yeah.
so I knew what that felt like, and that's where when I talk about the treat others the way you want to be treated, I'm not talking dogma and all that. I'm talking like just simple logic. Do I want somebody to be a dick to me or my kids or my friends or whatever? Then don't be a dick to other people. But so that being said, I look at bullies as being like people in powerful positions that punch down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I also look at it oftentimes, honestly, kind of like a lion with a thorn in its paw. You know what I mean? Where it's kind of like, um, what's that expression? Like I heard somebody say one time, like hurt people hurt other people. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So it's
Those
kind of
are people that are
like
hurting. Yeah, totally. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So there's actually a part of me, and
Well,
we offline one time we talked about. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. What were you going to
no,
say,
no,
Kat?
no. Go ahead. I was just
What
gonna
was
say it's a little bit of like what's really going on, right? Like, I mean, that's kind of like what you want to like ask or what you'd be nice to find out. Like, like what's really going on.
Well, yeah. So I remember one time you and I were just bullshitting, and I expressed that compassion is a difficult thing because you got to give it to people that sometimes it's people you really disagree with or you whatever, right? And so I remember expressing at one point like, at the end of the day, seriously, anybody that knows, I give a shit about other people, right? I do. It's an Achilles heel, sorry, but by the same token, when I think about it, at the end of the day, Trump is a human being, but he's an adult man that's made he's had opportunities to make different decisions. But that being said, if you rewind it all the way back, and this is where the compassion part's tough, is that this dude probably grew up since his infancy, seemingly, what's important: money, power, domination, showing weakness is a flaw and stuff. So poor dude's fucking heart must be, you know what I mean? Like,
Oh yeah, totally.
that'd
Yeah,
be rough.
exactly.
That'd be rough, right? And but I remember when I said that, you're like, fucking compassion for Trump, what the hell? And it's like, what? But I mean, at the end of the day, he's
It's necessary, really. I mean, it's necessary on a level, because without that, you can't see. Yeah. Anyway, continue. Yeah.
Well, no, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. So it's like, it's not like I agree with him. But what I really feel is that it's kind of like seeing an immature, like a little kid, and it's like, oh, they're still at the point where they're picking their nose and eating it. Oh, poor little shit. You know what I mean? It's sort of that same way with, oh, you just haven't learned that greed is actually kind of a manifestation of sadness, or
Yeah.
you know what I mean, or
Yeah.
fear and stuff, and so. And I think honestly, and that's kind of the funny sadistic part, is that having compassion for people in those situations, until they get to a point where they actually see compassion as a very kind thing, are kind of like, I don't need your fucking compassion. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
So that kind of,
That's a classic mom line of kill them with kindness. You know what I mean? Like kill them with compassion. Like it's like, and I mean, it's a funny way to put it, but I mean, it is. It's that
true,
feeling like they're
for
finally
real.
like, I don't need that.
But it takes me about 2 seconds. So to the viewer mailbag question, no, I don't think we're being bullies when we're calling Trump a dickbag of the week. I mean, what we're talking about specifically isn't necessarily the human being of Trump. We're talking about this character that he's made of, you know. He's minimized sorry, I didn't see a little behind the scenes.
Every
He's
time, dude.
Yep, I'm always itching and stuff. It's like,
Woo! All right.
it'd probably be easier if I just sat there and pat my face the whole time, so it was less disturbing when I stopped. But anyways, but no, I don't think we're being bullies. I think, in fact, what I would say is, I would compel anybody to say the shit that they really, if you got it in your heart and that's how you feel, because being able to check it against other people. What I would say to Trump is, hey, you know what, dude? You're already in the position. You've got a lot of people that want to be on board. People love being patriotic. If you all of a sudden had a mea culpa and just said, look, man, I was coming hard because I felt this and this, but I've had an epiphany, and I see that there'll be tons of opportunities in his presidency where terrible things unfortunately happen, where he can, or just minor terrible things where he can say, I really woke up and I see that we got to be inclusive of everybody and everybody's rights matter. That'll happen,
Yeah.
for sure. Hold your breath, but
Yeah,
you know
don't,
what I mean?
say,
But
oof, don't
you know,
put any fucking money in Vegas on that happening.
but I actually think there's an onus on people, and specifically in the arts and cracking jokes and shit, to say something. Back in the day, in the 60s and stuff, musicians and artists were saying things. And now I
Yeah.
think it's kind of gotten to a point where it's like, well, I don't want to lose my corporate gig, so don't step on toes. And it's like, there's other things that are more important. So speak truth to power, I guess, is my thing on it. Do you agree or
That's
disagree?
perfect. Yeah, man. I think that's a great way to answer it. Yeah, we were never coming across in any way. Yeah, it's totally what you said.
Well, and just to make that last point again, Kat, I think that a lot of time bullies are just like, they're lions with thorns in their paw. You know what I mean? They're just hurting people, and it sucks when people are hurting. But a lot of times, the last thing that I'm not trying to exacerbate. I'm just trying to say, look, dude, when you're in a position of power, maybe you should have talked to somebody for a little while before you decided to become president.
well, and also like to the viewer mail, to the person that wrote the viewer mail as well. Like also like don't forget to laugh. You know what I mean? Like I think that that's part of it too.
For
Like
real.
don't forget to laugh. Like even if it's not, I mean, there is a lot of humor out there, and we don't. It's not necessarily even the idea of pointing a finger and you have to laugh. It's more the idea of looking at it and I don't know, just
You
take
know
time.
what?
Yeah,
I think on that note, that's where progressives could take a note too, though. It's like progressives could be more aggressive in a lot of ways, but also lighten up. I mean, we're going to get to a point where I mean, there are some things that are just truly offensive and intended to hurt, but there's just some things that are funny. I mean, you know what I mean? And
Totally.
be able to laugh at yourself and stuff. And so,
I think we're and I hope that we're, or not even we're, but I hope that it's helping, because we need that, and we don't want to lose that. I feel like if anything, we're getting into a point where there's so much cultural, either significance or insignificance coming around. Perfect. That it's hard to sift through it, and I guess what I'm just going back to, without getting too deep into that topic, is just don't, take time to laugh, find some funny in some things, and let's try not to take it all too seriously.
well, so that's the thing, Kat, is when people are struggling. I think all over both sides of the aisle. I think, like with cranial colon dysplasia and cranial colon dislodge, I've been thinking, how you see those Perel dispensers everywhere, and yes,
Ooh,
we're associated with it. We benefit from the sales of blah blah blah, but that's why they're called a sponsor. But at the same time, I think people all over hallways, institutions, political institutions, all over the place. You could just have little cranial colon dislodge. You can put it on beforehand, and then if you feel like it's kind of slipping up the old sphincter, bing, it pops right out. You know what I
right
mean?
out.
So, anyways, and then
That's going to be good for the holidays too. Don't forget. So that's another thing that don't, this with the holidays coming up. There's always um, there's
go to the
always
website.
room for little cranial colon dislodge. And don't forget about the decoder ring. And now you can order those spikeandcat.com. We got the combo pack for you and your family and friends.
That's right. And we'll get into the decoder ring another time, Kat. I think we covered it pretty good last time. But if you're having questions in life, you know, results are not typical, I think, is one thing people say. And also no results expected. I think you could put that on there for all of our products in general, in terms of those products at least. But anyway, so Kat, we've also got another viewer mailbag here. And this one, I don't know if it was written by the same person or not, but it just says simply, it's I was curious where he thought this would, what exactly they meant, but it says, "Dear Spike and Cat," and then it just says simply in red crayon, "What's your deal?" Question mark. No, anything. So what's your deal? But it kind of led me a little bit into the other thing we were talking about, Kat, our rapid fire questions, and I thought maybe that'd be an opportunity we could kind of. You always say do two things with one thing. Is how you say it.
Yeah.
And I like how you cut to the chase with that one, Kat. We don't need the fluff of the birds and the stone. You get two things for one thing, is
Is
that.
basically it. And the birds and the stone thing, I mean, we're in a place now in society, we don't even need that really. You know what I mean? We don't need to
Who's
be
trying to
thinking
kill
about
birds?
knocking birds out with
Yeah,
stones. Come on. Be
I
friends.
got no beef with it.
They got enough, birds have enough beef with just domesticated cats, let alone us throwing stones at them.
You know what, Kat? And actually, that I don't know if you read in our scroll down there, but there's a whole thing going on right now with the cats and dogs out there. They're ganging up a bit on the squirrels. I would advise people that, for people that really need to know the headlines, kind of if you want fake news, come to the Spike and Cat show. We'll give you the shit that nobody's putting out there, and most of it's because it's all bullshit. You know what I mean, Cat? But if you want the headlines. In fact, I would say for some of our viewers out there, if you want to see the headlines that you want, send them to Spike and Cat show. We'll give them a look. They might go down in the scroll because we're checking our sources. Our sources are coming right from a text file, so we know the
Yeah.
words are there. So at any rate, Cat, what's your deal?
Oh, what's my deal? That's a good question. My nose kind of itches, which is interesting. I keep looking down at this at this sheet of paper that really has nothing on it, which is pretty funny. What's my deal? I don't know. It's Saturday. I'm having a kicking it with Spike here on the Spike and Cat show, and I don't know. Our deal is we're just sitting around talking about shit that we think we know, as it says in the old fucking themer.
Fair enough.
But yeah, man, this beautiful sunset. I love this country road behind us. It makes me feel. I feel cozy when I'm.
Hasn't been a single car driven by the whole
No,
time,
it is
Cat.
true. It's
That's
true.
how peaceful it is.
I kind of thought if nothing else, you'd see like a skunk run across the road or something. But
No, see, they've got all that chemical mist kind of sitting across there. That kind of wipes out a lot of the you know, the
The vermin, as if you will.
everything's, but and actually that's the moon right there. That's the chemical mist that kind of gives it that look. But, um, anyways,
Oh yeah. Well, oh, sorry. Another thing, it's really starting to feel. You know, it's funny. No matter where you are, like in the world, and like Cali, obviously we don't get snow where I'm living at, but you still get definitely like this feeling of the holidays comes like through the air. It's super interesting. You know, it's kind of like that. I always say in the fall, like that idea of like you can start to smell like football in the air. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you can start smelling football season. You know, like it's just that certain like change or in the. But anyway, so that's my deal.
well, here, Kat, check this out. Look at
What's
through
your
the
deal?
um, through the technology portals that we happen to have here at the show. I was going to show you something really exciting. In the background, you might recognize this. Whoops. We do talk a lot about portals here. I
Oh,
understand that. But one of the things people should understand is if we cut to that picture here, look at what we got in the background here, Kat. That's California circa 1950s, right? Is that your
nice,
neighborhood a little
dude.
bit, do you think, or not? Here, let me clear us out of there. I'm going to clear.
Nice.
Let me see. Does this look familiar at all, Kat? Let's
Yeah,
see.
it does.
Those are. It, is this a live shot out your window? Is this your this is kind of your neighborhood though, ain't it? A little bit. Is that San Francisco? There you are. Wave. There's your building. Wave out the window, Cat. Oh, oh, there I see you. I saw you. Yep. It slowed up a little bit, but anyway. So that's the great thing about it, Cat, is that um, look, now we're floating.
Oh, nice, dude. We are totally flying through. Oh, wow, that's super cool.
It's
Oh,
just
dude, is that
technology.
that's yeah, that was City Hall and shit.
Is
Wow.
it? So this is San Francisco, though, isn't it?
Yeah, totally, dude.
Um, yeah. So, anyways, we can just have that going for a little bit.
That's
So,
super interesting,
so,
dude. All the hills and stuff. Wow.
so then we've also got my dispatch out here in the world. So, anyways, Kat. Oh yeah, they were asking what's your deal.
Yeah, so now I threw it back at you. What's your deal, dude?
You know what, Kat? Um, peace and love. Peace and love is my deal. I'm all about it. You know what I mean? All forms, all kinds. Um, you know what? I actually, it's funny because it gets you thinking. Like, at the end of the day, that when I read that question, I thought, what is my deal? Like, what do I hope anyone would ever know as far as if somebody could describe you in a couple words. And so I thought, yeah, actually, all bullshit aside, anybody that knows me, I'm peace and love, man. I like to crack a joke, sing a song, whatever, right? So, what that's what I would ask you is in 2 words, what are you?
Oh, wow, dude. I That's a great question.
Or okay, less than 5 words.
I'll
You're a
just do
writer.
it in
You
one
got
word.
tons
I'm
of
a
words.
realist. There we go.
Realist. Wow. 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 Okay. What's you got 4 words or 2 words left depending on your math.
Um,
You're a realist.
I don't
Optimist or
know.
pessimist?
Seems like a bit of a rebel without a cause in a way, but
Is
yeah,
that right? Is there a
Oh,
part of you that likes to poke at it just to see what it does?
well, yeah, oh, definitely, dude.
Really? And where did that come from?
Um, I don't know. I don't know. Probably growing up in a home where you kind of had to well, that's a little specific. Well, no, that's true though. Like where you had to kind of get your jabs in. You know what I mean? That's the way it is in all families,
Like
right? You
people
kind of got to
poked
get
at
your
it, so you
jabs in.
poked back?
I I always used words like to get my jabs in more than I ever used my fists. If you know me, you probably know why. But
Because you beat me like 3 times. And I forgive you for it, Kat. You know, the first two I had coming, but that last one, you know, when I
it's
woke up,
funny.
no.
But
They,
yeah, but yeah, that actually is really interesting to think of yourself that way. Because I don't know, like I think it's actually it'd be even more like to go back and like just randomly like let's say people that like you haven't seen in whatever 15, 20 years
sure.
and like ask them like point blank like what was. what's your, if they could be completely on, God, my
You know
eyes,
what
there's
I
like
think would
a
be a
hair in
better
there.
metric
Anyway.
of that is ask people that knew you. They always say you are who you are in kindergarten. I find that people really are pretty much on the nuts of who they were in kindergarten or whatever. You know what I mean? Like the personality that they have, it's just kind of exacerbated. Maybe you know what I mean? Because um, uh, okay, are you an optimist or a pessimist?
Oh, I'm a realist, dude. Realist.
Okay,
That's
but out of no, but you have to pick. You're already a realist, but does that tend you towards optimism or pessimism?
well, I can't honestly, I don't go either way in that. I honestly
When
just
your team's playing, do you expect they're going to win or do you expect they're going to lose?
um I expect they're gonna win, but I don't
Oh,
necessarily call that. I think that's an interesting way to look at optimism.
I'm just no. I mean,
You realize that the word pessimism only exists because of optimists.
yeah,
Like if you look at when the words were invented and created, like optimists needed to have a word created that made the realists look like they were negative. So there was this class of people that they were like, well, we need pessimism. It's pessimism. Because ultimately they were just realists, and then there became this group of people that were so lofty that they became optimists, and then the optimists were like, but wait, we need this other thing because we can't just be this group that's not. This is my take on it a little bit, but then
I
but then
thought I thought
but
this is
no,
off the
it's
History
true
Channel.
though. Like pessimism, the word pessimism bothers me on so many levels. I get it and I understand it. Don't get me wrong. It's not like I'm being a fool about it, but I don't necessarily, as far as like a classification, um, I have a hard time with that one. I think that I'm optimistic in certain things. I'm probably pessimistic in certain things if you want to just take it from the true definition of the word. But the fact that that exists is kind of just always been like, eh. I just like to try to be more of a realist. Like,
So
I
you
don't
said
know,
you're
like
probably a what? I missed that part. You're probably a pessimist or an optimist in the
no, I'd
sense of
say
the
that
word.
there's times when everybody's both, right? Like I think
Sure,
that there's always a time when you can be pessimistic about certain things and you're optimistic about other things. If you want to take it in the true sense of the words and the
sure.
definitions of them, but I look at myself on a day-to-day basis more as a realist. Now, people may look at that as that there's some negativity around that, but hey, if reality is what it is, you can look at it through whatever lens. You could, I guess, you could paint it, prettier if you want to. But anyway,
Well,
realist.
that's an interesting take on it because to me the uh, a realist okay so it's the old is the glass half full or half empty, right? The realist is a statistical number. It's saying it is exactly 50.1%, so it is more full than it is empty. So statistically, you see what I'm saying? So I would look at a realist as being that's the actual information. Now a realist can also be optimistic, like you're saying in this situation. I know that statistically this team might beat this other team because they have whatever a better whatever, right? But you can also, but I hope that some anomaly happens
Yeah,
that
totally.
so you can be a realist and an optimist. So for instance, for
High hopes, low expectations.
you have hopeful expectations.
No, I said high hopes, low expectations. That's
Yeah,
the class.
exactly, exactly. So that's a realist, exactly. But
That's the
to
class.
me, it's funny because
Well,
like,
I don't think that's a realist necessarily, but I think that's a funny statement. The high hopes, low expectations. It's an
well,
interesting way to look at life.
well, and so like I've gone back to a few times, but like I look at the crap that happens in your life. If you're willing to look at it as it's an opportunity to grow and learn, I might not like it. It might not have gone my way. So pessimistically, it didn't go my way, right? But optimistically, I learned a ton of shit. I know what not to do next time. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying? And
totally.
so that's where. But I'm still a realist and say, did I win or lose? Well, I didn't go my way. Didn't go the way I was hoping for. So if you're adding it up that way and stuff,
Oh
so
yeah, looking
so
at it that way, totally. That's like the balance system, right? Like you're going through and balancing those scales and being like, oh yeah, because I think that that's a big part of life, right? Is that ability to, and I think that that's some of the great things about um, passing that on to the other generations of making them realize that hey, sometimes it's all right to trip over the rock and smash your face in the ground. You got to get up and dust it off and look in the mirror and
yep.
say hey, I got to do it better or different next time. You can learn from that, as the classic saying goes, way more than you can if everything that you have in life is always just super like, oh, I won, I got it, I got it, I got. So
Well,
Yeah, there's a lot to be said about that.
I told an interesting story about that one time, Kat, but we've talked before about, greed and that type of stuff. And it kind of actually plays off of that bully thing we were talking about before because, like, I think that a lot of times greed is like a fear that I'm just not going to have enough. So I've got to make sure other people. And also, it's a weird thing that some people seem to kind of derive joy from the fact that other people don't have it and I have it, you don't, and your misery about not having it seems to kind of make me happy. But I was just going to say, one time I was on the beach in California and I had a really interesting thing happen. I'll just be quick about it. But trying to learn to surf, my surfboard was broken and I was really getting frustrated and I didn't have an ankle strap, so I was getting wore out. So I go up on the beach and this kid comes up and he starts giving me all these tips. He's a really nice kid, and then he looks at the board and says, "I think it's broken." All this stuff. Really nice kid though, or at least was coming across that way. All of a sudden, I go, "Oh, do you live around here?" And he says, "Well, actually, I live in that house right there." And he points at this gigantic mansion, like hugest house, overlooking the ocean, all this stuff. I'm like, "Whoa, that's where you and your parents live?" Because we were in our early 20s at this time. You know what I mean? And he says, "No, that's my house. My parents live inland." And I'm like, "Are you like famous or something?" And he's like, no, I'm a trust fund kid. And I'm like, "Really? What's that?" And he's like, "You don't know what a trust fund brat?" He said a trust fund brat.
Dude.
Yeah. And I'm like, "No, I've never heard of one." And he goes, "Oh, well, basically," and he goes on to explain it for people that don't know, look it up. But basically, you don't have to worry about money. Right. And so I'm like, "Wow, that'd be so rad." But he goes on to tell all these stories of like, he literally, and I'm not joking, was saying when he first was doing this is before the internet and stuff. When he first had to change a light bulb, it was scary to him because he had never had to do it before. He didn't know if he had to have the light switch on and off. He said he had a very expensive guitar that he's never learned to play because he's never had to. And I think people call it soft boned. You know what I mean? Like if it would be a scary world if you've never been out there and been tested by shit. And I think that's the long-winded point I'm making is that's the really cool thing about the obstacles that you go through is, well, get up and dust yourself off and you grow and learn from that stuff. And so that's where, I mean, I know it's a happy bullshit type of story, but look at any song we like and look any artist we like. They're telling a funny story. Any comedian, they're telling, cautionary tale saying, "Look, man, I experienced this. If I were you, I'd do it slightly differently or get the same punchline,
Totally.
So top your head, Kat, okay? Because we were going to do our...
we're doing the take. Okay, here we go.
Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay, so we're going to do 2-minute takes here, okay? So I'm timing you, and it better be exactly 2 minutes or the internet will blow up. But
it's going to be probably.
Anyways, okay, here we go. Just off the top of your head, no right or wrong answers. Top 3 bands. Go.
What?
Top 3 bands. There are no right or wrong answers.
That's really impossible. Well, I think
just off the top of your head
changes. You know what I mean? Like I honestly do. And when you say bands, can I throw solo artists in, or are you saying bands?
Yeah, solo artists count too.
Oh, jeez.
Just off the top of your head, you might even be asked this question again next week.
All right, Minutemen, the Black Angels, and trying to think of what else I've been listening to a lot of lately. I'm going to throw Fu Manchu in there. I've been really enjoying their music lately, so I'm just going to throw those 3 out. There we go. Boom.
Fu Manchu. Wow. Okay. Okay. Now, any bands that I may have heard of. Just kidding. We have a nice segment on the show where Kat tells me all about modern music. I feel like an 80-year-old man when I hear you list bands. Sometimes just to get back, Kat, I feel like I need to pull out like I've been listening to the Sharpies and the speaker boxes and the microphones. They're good. The microphones are good. Speaker boxes are but you got the bands. Oh, so
whoa,
what was that,
man?
Things
are falling, dude. Things are falling. We're going. It's all gone mad.
Okay, Kat. Are we going back and forth on this?
Oh, my turn. Yeah, dude. All right, so it's playing off of that. I have to do this classic one, and I realize that some people might say that it's cheesy or whatever, but the one reason I'm doing it is because it's one of the ways that I met one of my greatest friends that I have, who I taught with in England. He'll just remain unnamed, but and it's the classic question of, and it's the one he asked me right out of the gate when he met me: Beatles or Stones?
Wow. I thought you were gonna go Beatles or Elvis because you always hear that one. Beatles or Stones, man.
What the fuck? Were you being serious? Somebody has
Well,
asked you
then
Beatles or Elvis
actually,
before?
actually, that's an old metric of like okay, so there's cool. I heard a guy actually from that era explain, and I think he said he got it from a movie, but he said, look, there are people, yeah, people from the '60s are cool, right? But it was kind of on the where have all the hippies gone type of conversation. Like I thought that was going to be a big part of the generation that's going to help this part not happen. Instead, a bunch of them voted for Trump, but I know there's hippies in there someplace, right? And what's that?
No, no, go ahead.
Oh, and so anyways, somebody explained at that point that you people like Elvis and people like the Beatles, but nobody likes them equally. And if people don't like them equally, whichever one they like probably tells you a bit about their. So Elvis would be more like the greaser culture and probably tend a bit more to the conservative side. Beatles, that's what their argument was. So to your point, if I have to take it playing your tricks, I'm clock's running. Okay, then individually as artists, and even saying that the Beatles collectively made more of an influence to, I would say, worldwide. I actually would say as individual artists, I like the Beatles a lot. I'm a huge Lennon fan, right? I really like Paul McCartney, George Harrison. I don't know as much of Ringo's solo stuff, but he seems like a likable guy. So I'd say collectively, individually, they're really good. But I would have to say Stones, man. I've really been going hard on the Stones the last couple of years, and I'm not saying in terms of overall musical influence, but just total body of work. Some of the Beatles stuff that's "She Loves You," yeah, yeah, isn't quite as much as like I've been playing "No Expectations" lately. You know that tune by the and there's a lot of the Stones just got and they've got a really cool swath of music. So I'm gonna have to go with Stones. Right back at you though. What who
Yeah, totally.
are you, Beatles
Yeah.
or Stones?
Oh, instantly Stones, dude. That's
Okay,
all.
okay, then John Lennon or Mick Jagger.
I don't think. Well, I don't really think I can. I don't know if that's as comparable. To
Legally, you
be
have to.
completely honest
Legally, you
with
have
you.
to. They're the front men. No. Okay, then
Um,
John Lennon, Paul McCartney,
well,
or
Lennon. Way. I'm not a big Paul McCartney fan. I'm sorry. I'm just not. I can't get my head wrapped. Like Band on the Run has got to be one of the worst. Oh, that song is no sale for me. I
okay.
can't do Paul McCartney stuff, and I don't know, for some reason I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that he's an amazing human being, and all of those things, but I am a Ringo fan though. I always thought he never really got the credit that he deserved. He actually is a really good, super talented musician, a
Human
great drummer.
metronome.
I mean,
Human
good God.
metronome. You know what I mean?
But
So we
and George
see.
Harrison was super cool. Like I really like the stuff that he branched out and did. Like the fact that he was like part of that traveling Wilburys and all that, like doing all of that, right? I mean, I'm not mistaken there. Yeah, yeah. So yeah,
Yeah,
doing all that stuff.
in
From
Traveling
the,
Wilburys,
yeah.
like talk about. There's one of those bands that is like, in terms of a collection of artists. I don't know that there's been like that's like a
Oh, totally.
super group.
Dude,
That's up there with like the Highwaymen and stuff.
To get
What's
Roy
that?
Orbison to come in and do anything collectively like that, that was just like that. It's like talk about like a thing that I don't know if it must have just been meant to be, because
Oh,
I
dude.
mean,
And
my
then for Roy Orbison to pass right at that time, that was crazy.
God.
There's another topic we got to bring up. So you got John Prine as one of our artists of the week at one point, right? And I've thrown out Willie Nelson. I think we'll go back to those guys a bunch of times. But Roy Orbison, Tom Petty is another one we got to go back to. That's just
Oh, yeah,
there's
there's a
and
lot
that's
of
it's funny though because it brings me to that Wilco song of the best songs never get sung, best laugh never leaves a lung. There are so many. To your point, listing those bands that some of us may not be as familiar with. There's so much great art out there. You know what I mean? That
oh,
on one level, it's almost like when we do that segment of for no one for liking music, you don't know shit about music, Spike. When you do that, it'd be great if you introduce me to somebody that everybody would know, and also somebody that does that people might not know, more regional or whatever.
that's a good idea. Yeah,
Okay,
totally,
okay.
totally.
So
Oh, is it your turn? All right.
yep, yep. Okay, so on that note, going to the best of. Oh wait, no, actually, I skipped over one. Here we go. So remembering it's a comedy show to some extent, and I need to remind people that this is being
That's the
brought to you.
intro to this, dude.
Well, and it's being brought to you by the Spike and Cat Decoder Ring and Cranial Colon Dislodge. So, in the spirit of cranial colon dislodge, Cat, the old having your head up your cranium or having your cranium up your rectum, rather, rectum, damn near killed him. They, so, uh, uh, any regrets, lighthearted, any regrets? What's something you've done where you're like, damn, should have never done that?
Oh, here's totally instant one. My only show regret that I have in my life. So I'm a freshman at USD.
You just
Um,
sourced it right
oh,
away,
dude,
man.
totally.
This
So
one must sit
freshman at
up there.
USD, dude, this one reels. You'll understand why when I get to the fucking
Do we need to
punchline.
contact the legal department before you tell this story?
So I'm a freshman at USD. I've just known Bender for probably like a less than a month, really, because so school had just kind of started. Because I met Bender at oddly enough at Hobo Days at SDSU, and so we're back at the dorms, and his friend, his buddy, I'll leave nameless. He was going to come with as well, and they had an extra ticket to go see in Omaha, Nebraska, Nirvana and the Breeders.
Oh my! And
And I said that I needed to stay and study for this government test because it was my first semester of college and I wanted to do well. Dude, check this shit out. They ended up not making it to the show because they got so blizzoed that they didn't even make it to the show, right? And I didn't go with because I stayed to study. Ended up getting like a B on the fucking government test anyway, so it didn't really matter. Like I probably could have not studied and pulled that off. You know what I mean?
that's hilarious.
So that one, oh, dude, yeah, that's one. I mean, dude, and then Kurt Cobain killed himself like shortly, like really, if you think about it, shortly after that.
Yeah, it was our
94, right?
freshman year. It was
So, I
actually
mean,
our
yeah.
freshman year of college.
Yeah.
So,
So 94. So, I mean, you think about that, like that was like my one, especially growing up where we grew up, dude, there weren't concerts like that coming, not that size or those bands.
Sure.
I mean, we had some good stuff back in the day, the Pomp Room and whatnot. We don't need to go into that at this
yeah,
point.
but I mean, not
No.
Nirvana, Pearl Jam, bands like that weren't coming. Breeders weren't coming through like the.
So, yeah,
upper
dude,
mid-
that's the.
What time of year was
obviously,
that?
like,
Would you say? What? Just out of curiosity.
what?
What time of year was it? Do you remember? Like
Oh, it
in
was.
the
I think it
fall,
was
spring?
November, like end of November
Okay.
in 1993. It would have been somewhere in there, maybe even like end of
Yeah,
November-ish.
because I think he passed away. Wasn't it was it the spring?
I think it was it April or was it
I
like
want to say,
March?
yeah.
Somewhere
God,
in '94.
there's
Yeah.
there's so many things like that that happen in your life where I can't remember the specific day, but I can remember where I was when that happened. That was terrible. That's
It's like
tragic.
March. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I can't remember the exact date, but yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
I remember the phone calls that I got. I remember I remember everything about that.
No, that's
Crazy.
wild. That's wild.
So yeah, anyway, back. Well, but did we doing that? No, here I'll ask you a different one, dude. How's that? Or did you
Okay.
want me to throw that one back at you?
It's totally up to you. Whatever it's conversations, whatever you want.
Let's go
man.
this way, dude. I want to go this way because I think this will be fun. Because I actually have kind of forgotten the story. I think I know it, but also kind of don't. So, how'd you get the nickname Spike?
Oh wow, that's interesting. You know what? It's actually okay. So, hey, Kat, let me actually. That would give me a good opportunity to bring up an image real quick while I'm talking about this.
cool.
So if people can just forget about the fact that I'm clicking on stuff right here, but I wanted to show something while I'm telling this story. Let me see. Oh yeah, here
Dude,
it is.
this
Okay.
just so people do realize, like this is totally impromptu. Like this is actually kind of throwing me. I'm like, holy shit, you have a picture you want to put up while you're telling this story?
Well, and that's the thing is, whoops, it's a little pixelated. I didn't know it'd be this pixelated, so I got to clear this layer. Hold on, and I'll clear this layer. Yeah, you know what? And it's funny because it's harder than people might think. But anyway, so I'm throwing a slide up. This is Boone at the Bushnell Garage. So you were asking how I got the nickname of Spike, right? And the interesting thing is, for people that might know, I have a fairly large family, right? Larger than the average, you might say. And at any rate, my older brother Dan, he's probably, I think, 15 years older. Or well, yeah, must be about 15 years older than me. And so, in a big family like that, there are certain people that you end up being very close to. And he actually is somebody that uh, I found myself. He would every time that I would come home, or every time he'd come home from college, for instance, he'd be telling all these stories and all that type of stuff, and just playing guitar, and just somebody I really look up to, right? And so when we were little, what actually ended up happening was he all of a sudden out of nowhere, I was a really kind of beefy kid, gigantic head, and I looked, everybody says I could have been Charlie Brown or whatever, but not that my looks changed that much. I had hairdo for a while, and it's all kind of grown back. Actually, it's moved slowly down the rest of my body.
It's the weirdest thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and shout out to our buddy Johns, if anybody knows. In high school, I used to tease him about having shoulder hair, right? And anyways, so I looked
Now
down
you have
the other day
shoulder
and I got like 4 shoulder hairs. I so wanted to shoot him a text of it, like, look, bro, I was just behind the times. I didn't know. But anyways, and so but yeah, so with Spike, it was just I was a beefy little kid, and it was a really funny little thing because just a squatted down person with a gigantic head. But I looked like I was really tough, but I was my sisters would all say I'm a soft-hearted person, right? So it was kind of a juxtaposition. On one level, when we were playing sports and stuff, I would just like a bowling ball. But then, then when Dan would pull out his guitar, I'd sit there and music really affects me and that type of stuff. And so, ever since I was a little kid, probably, in fact, it's funny because I don't like being called, my given name is Michael, right? And I like being called Michael. Friends will call me Michael. I always say friends call me Spike, right? In general. But I hate being called Mike because I knew a guy when I was in like 7th grade. Actually, you and I were friends at that time, and I went to work on a hog farm. You might remember this. I won't get into the deep woods about it, but the guy was such a prick that I worked for that after that I hated being called Mike because I thought, if this is Mike, I'm not a Mike.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so I have such a negative association with that name that's why. And so it's funny because now as an adult, when it kind of like how maybe connected to Pavlov's response where you see food and you start salivating. When somebody calls me Spike, I instantly recognize them as a friend, right? Isn't that interesting? If somebody calls me Michael, they're still probably a friend, but it's probably, possibly more professional. You
I was
know what
going
I'm
to say
saying?
it's probably a different relationship they have with you. Like I'm guessing, like your sisters probably call you Michael, or like your
So where did Cat come
people
from?
that professionally probably call you Michael or whatever. Yeah.
So where'd Cat come from?
Oh, dude, it's actually really funny that we've come full circle with this. I mean, it works perfectly for you and me because it's how we've known each other since we were little. So Cat actually didn't come about until grade 9, freshman year. I was on the basketball team
Open it up.
for some reason.
But we don't know. Are we naming specifics or are you just randomly? Because
No, I'm rando.
okay. Because I think I remember now that you mentioned it.
So I'm on the basketball team, and there was a shortage of gyms. I mean, we grew up in a small town, so there's a shortage of gyms, right? So we had to take gym time whenever we could get it. Well, we had to practice. Oh, good Lord. It was super early in the morning at the field house. Well, I could just come in the west way on the gravel roads and get to the field house really quick. So it's the middle of winter, and I got there early. And so I'm sitting outside, like in the doorwell, I have my hat pulled down like over my face, trying to stay warm. And I'm just like, and I actually was like pretty much asleep from what I remember. And all of a sudden I start hearing, "Hey, Cat, hey, come on, Cat." And I'm like, "What?" And I get up and I go in. And from that point forward, the coach called me Cat, and everybody just started calling me Cat. And the reason it started was I was wearing, this is the funny part. This is the part where you're like, wah, wah. But I was wearing an Arctic Cat snowmobile.
Oh, sure.
Stocking cap, as we call them. So that's why because he didn't know. It was funny because it was early in the season, right? So
sure.
I don't think he knew necessarily who I was because I had the pulled over my, you know what I'm saying? So it was one of those things where it was.
But you have a couple of cats too, right?
Yeah, but that was never.
That's nothing related.
That was never part of it. No. So then once everybody started calling me Cat, back then, of course, being in high school and just being all Mister, I got to be fucking different. I always would do the KATT, and then it got shortened to KAT
That's
as it
it.
has been. But dude, nobody, seriously, dude, point blank, nobody has called me Cat. I can't say since high school. Like a few people did from Madison in college, like in undergrad, like maybe 2 or 3 people would call me
Sure.
that. But otherwise, I have not been called Cat in. I've
What
had
does it do
other
when somebody calls you
nicknames.
Cat? Does it instant? Does it do that? Does it make you think that's an old friend or what?
Oh, totally. Well, it
Hmm.
would have to be. It would have to be
Sure.
somebody that knows me on a level that's
Or
super
else,
unique, right? Like that a lot of people don't know me that way. Yeah. So
if
yeah,
somebody
like I
just
said, it's been a
guesses your
long
name,
time.
that's interesting. Well, it's funny because have you ever done like you remember in high school I used to do I would do impersonations of teachers and then our English teacher had me he heard about him and had me get up and start doing some of the impersonations and stuff. And so it's funny because one thing I remember about you and when I first met you of being very feline like was you used to do this move. You've got kind of long fingers and you'd do this move where you'd throw your fingers like this and then you'd slick your hair back on the side and you like to curl your fingers so you go like quick. Do you remember that when the gel on the sides was the look and it was like just like that?
Nice. God,
it
dude, that
was
was so
it
fucking
was
cool back then. Son of a
it was
bitch.
red.
I
No,
had
it was just
no
like a little
idea.
idiosyncrasy, and it was super funny. But it was just like that. And so, if anybody ever did that to me, who's this? I'd be like, "Oh, it's Cat. Check it out."
That's
You-
hilarious that I had that little idiosyncrasy or whatever the
so,
fuck.
so in my brain, it always
That's
connected together because it always reminded me of like a cat doing this deal. You know what I mean? And so it was just so in my head, it was like the name always really associated very well. But, anyways,
hilarious.
well, Cat,
I was probably trying to touch the hair that I was cherishing every piece of hair that I had on my head throughout my youth, knowing that it would all blow away at some point in time. My I like to think of my hair as a fine dandelion in the fall, where if you can sit firm, but if you the slightest, it just poof, just goes when it's
your DNA is just spreading throughout the galaxy, Cat. That's how you
that's
got to think
true.
of it.
That is
Whereas mine, I just keep saying that my hair is actually just old people that it doesn't go away. It just moves further south as I get older
true.
because
Yeah.
I got that magical tuft right above the crack of my ass. Everybody needs one of those. I wonder what the theory is there, but I keep thinking it's getting thick enough that it might be ready for on Letterman. Chris Elliott came on one time and he had tons of like pubic hair plugs, and so I think that's the look I might go for is just do kind of that
Dude, you recycle, reuse, dude. Fuck yeah, man. And if it's there and it's
saving the
your
earth,
hair, shit. I
saving the
mean,
earth, man.
there you go.
My dog Lola, I'll have to show a picture of her sometime, but my dog Lola happens to have exactly the color of hair that if I were to get a toupee, it's actually looks a lot like my dad's hair. You know what I mean? Like it's very
Gus,
legit. And the
nice.
sweet thing is she sheds it everywhere throughout our house, right? So all the time when I'm picking up wads of hair, I just keep thinking like, I feel like she's doing it the front on me, kind of be like, sure, sure. Well, while you go earn the daily bread and I lay here and eat the food that you buy for me, I'm going to just slough off a little bit of this extra hair. Why don't you go in the yard and pick up my shit while you're at it? but,
Totally.
but
Totally.
anyways, hey Kat, do you feel like we've solved all the world's problems
I
today?
think we killed it this week. I'm looking forward to the next show. Oh, yeah, let's not forget spikeandcat.com. Go check it out. We're always trying to keep something on there up to date and keep it going and moving. Love the ticker today, dude. Great addition to the show. It's always good to throw some news out there at the folks and let them know what's really going on. Yeah, man, this is a lot of fun. It actually went in a really really fun direction, dude. I like this little question thing we're doing. That's a fun little addition.
Well, and for us being out here in the middle of nowhere on this gravel road, I think that we're really getting great cell coverage. And have you noticed I have a fancy guitar stock that just happens to
I did notice it's right in the middle of the road. Thank goodness a vehicle has not come by. Oh, there you picked it up. Okay, good, good. I'd hate for
I
that to
pulled it out of the
get.
portal. See, check it out. Remember how I was saying that there's this portal here?
Whoa.
Crazy thing is there's like a guitar store back over here too, so you can just pull stuff out. If you need next week, remind me about the portal. If there's anything you need, Kat, I got it back there.
All right, I'm
Sometimes it
still
helps if
trying
you
to
tell
get
me.
mine fixed. I don't know if you remember last week, but mine was gunked up a bit, so I'm still trying to get that fixed.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
you can call like your internet service provider. I think they help out with it too and stuff, and they'll probably give you the upgrade.
I've been trying a cup of bleach a day. I'm just dumping it in there and seeing what that does.
Yep. Well, and I've also been thinking, don't forget, we want to tell all of our viewers before we go, we're going to be starting our advice column there on YouTube. Look for that. And basically what it is we're going to film how, like if you've ever got a computer, if you've got a computer that's giving you problems, have you tried dumping a glass of water on it? You know what I mean? Because if you got a stain in the carpet, that helps. So if your computer's giving you fits, please don't forget to let me tell you, if that's the best way of saying it, which it clearly isn't, I got to tell you about our app Rubber Ball that we have in development with our team of scientists. It's the same folks that actually helped us develop cranial colon dislodge and everything.
And make the decoder ring?
And the decoder ring. It's those same
wow.
It's those same folks, and basically
wow.
it's a special app called Rubber Ball. And some of my loved ones, I've shared it with them, but it's pretty top secret. But you're out there in Silicon Valley.
All right, well let's put that on the list for next time for sure. That's on the show. Jeez, dude, it's amazing to me you got that guitar stand to be like that on the road.
It's technology. It's the kind of technology.
Some rocks out? Like, did you make a little clearing?
Well, see, no. Basically, there's a portal right here, but this one just makes it stay vertical, and then this gravel road actually has a little stump right in the middle of it. Maybe that's why nobody's been coming through, Kat. But well, I think,
dude.
Okay, well, until next time, I guess we'll
killing it. As always, yeah, peace and love, Spike.
We've been friends most of our lives. Had a couple of kids.
I've had a couple of wives. Talk about the shit we think we know. Back and smile. It's a Spike and Cat show.